ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you very much for joining us for our Wednesday weather update with this Antarctic blast moving up the country. So we're going to try and break down the snow for you. There's a lot of confusion out there at the moment. NIWA, the government forecaster, and Met Service, the government forecaster, are saying two different things. So that's messy and terrible. So it's our job to come in there and try and make some sense of it all. So let's animate this wind map and show you what's going on. First of all, the Antarctic blast is only just arriving now. While you might have already had a temperature drop, the main cold part is only now moving up the South Island, and tonight moves into the North Island, and then overnight Thursday clears the North Island. This map is called the Misery Index. That is literally what it's called. It's mostly to warn us, when you see that blue, that's showing that temperatures will feel like 0 or below. So for newborn lambs on the South Island, that's a major problem as we go through this evening and tonight and into tomorrow. Now this is how we're shaping up for this evening. This is 6 p.m. As we go through Wednesday. The cold change moving into the North Island, the Antarctic part of it now coming into there, so temperatures will drop, snow flurries will increase around Central Plateau, and we'll also be seeing widespread snow flurries around the South Island. Notice though some areas like South Canterbury may not have a lot, sort of sheltered by parts of Southland and Otago. And as you go into Canterbury, it's a lot patchier. Banks Peninsula likely to get the bulk of that snow as it moves on through, but we're not ruling out Christchurch getting some as well, a dusting of snow overnight tonight. Again, that's one area where NIWA and Met Service, the two government forecasters that we tax fund, are saying two different things, which is just insane. But anyway, we're here to make sense of it for you. That is our job. So we will try to. We're using IBM. They're the world's most accurate data forecaster, so that's a good place to start. So as we go through tonight, that windy change comes up with that southerly. So 60, 70, 80k winds around the South Island, mostly affecting places like Otago Peninsula and areas that jut out into the sea a little bit more. Now let's take a look at the snow. This is the next 24 hours of snow from about 9 o'clock on Wednesday through to 9 o'clock on Thursday. You can see the bulk of the snow in purple. That's the heaviest stuff through the mountains and ranges separating Otago and Southland, but some heavier falls out here to the east, and that could impact the state highway. Dunedin's expecting snow, so is Oamaru, but as you go into Canterbury, as I said before, a little bit sheltered in some areas. You may still get some snow, but it just may not be as much. And then Banks Peninsula sort of takes a fair amount of that snow as well, getting up to maybe 20 centimetres. Now let's go to the North Island. You've also got snow right up as far north as the Gisborne Ranges at this stage, and it might go even a little further up into the Kaimai Ranges. The heaviest snow, Mount Ruapehu, 20 to 30 centimetres for you. And then all the way down the mountains and ranges here are dusting up to maybe 10 to 15. Now these ones around in Wairarapa could actually come down and affect more people than on the western side because you're sort of more exposed to that wind flow. So places like Dannevirke, we're still seeing that snow symbol showing up for you. So here's a closer look at Dunedin. The heaviest falls through the hills and ranges out to the east and to the west. The city itself showing up to getting about maybe 4 or 5 centimetres, but on the hills maybe 10 to 15. Up towards Christchurch, again as I say, the two government guys, NIWA and Met Service, are saying two different things. That's a good way to hedge your bets if you're the government. But if you're in the private sector and have to be held accountable, we're trying to figure this one out. And it looks as though the heaviest snow will be along Banks Peninsula, up to 20 centimetres of snow there. And then in the city itself, it varies. Low amounts for the most part. We're not really seeing it being a major event at this stage. The only thing that could change that would be the wind flow changing direction, becoming a little more southerly rather than the sort of south to southwesterly that we're seeing, and that would shift some of that snow out to the plains and make Christchurch a bit more vulnerable. But certainly some heavy snow right along Banks Peninsula and also potentially into the Port Hills. Right, let's get into the forecast. Here we are now for Thursday. So the main cold change has gone right up to the top, up to the far north. Everyone's got that wintry change, snow flurries all the way up to the Gisborne Ranges and probably the Coromandel and Kaimai Ranges just on the tops, and low level or sea level snow flurries around southern and eastern areas. Not sea level so much up in the North Island, although they could be mixed in with some rain. But notice how dry it's becoming. That's because this big high is rolling in, and that means frosty weather coming in. So overnight Thursday into Friday morning, the purple indicates below 0, high risk for frosts. So that includes kiwifruit country up in Bay of Plenty, vineyards around Hawke's Bay and Marlborough and central Otago. So that's going to be a serious morning for you guys dealing with that, with the frosty weather coming through. And we might even see a light frost in parts of Coromandel, Auckland, and even up around Whangarei. So we don't get that in October very often. Now Friday lunchtime, there is the high slowly coming in. A couple of last remaining showers with that southerly. Mahia Peninsula will be probably one of the more bleaker places to be. My apologies if you live there. It's a lovely spot, but it won't be so nice for you on Friday, I'm sorry. Over in Australia, mild with rain coming through for you. Now this weekend, the high drifts further out to sea as we go through Saturday. That will allow a milder airflow to spread on through as rain continues on across Australia. And then we move through to Sunday and that high moves further out to the east. Now we've got mild nor'easters at the top of the country, nor'westers at the south. That'll be windy and mild. And this stormy system leaving Sydney and Canberra, bringing a burst of wind and rain and even some wet weather up towards Brisbane and the Gold Coast. And then it starts to move out to sea. And our final map shows next week high pressure really moving out to our east. But the tropics are showing a bit of life. We haven't talked much about La Nina's weather, but we're starting to see that showing up. And believe it or not, even with an Antarctic blast right now, our cyclone season in Australia and New Zealand and the South Pacific kicks off on November the 1st, which is less than a month away, only, 3 and a bit weeks away. So we're watching this very closely, and we may well be switching away from the wintry stuff this week to talking about subtropical lows next week. Not necessarily directly coming in, but just showing some life up there in the tropics for the first time in a number of months. That is all from me. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you again on Thursday with our next update.